Hi, my name is Brandon Brona, and I am the transition expert for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time and don't know about what the show is all about. The show is all about helping people that are going through life-changing events. Something happens, something's going to happen, or something needs to happen is typically the call that I get. Today's guest is one of those scenarios where we are actually doing a recap just to sort of see how things progress. So, Emily, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we managed to have the initial episode, which you shared with us a lot of things that you were going through, both mentally, physically, and emotionally. And since we've last had our episode, can you share with us what happened?
Well, it's been a little wild. You know, this time of year it's kind of crazy. I'm a school teacher, so everything's a little wild and crazy. But I would say the biggest thing for me is that the amount of mental energy that has been lifted off of my plate is really immense. Before I would come home and just be overwhelmed and everything would take more than what I had left. And now I can just, come home and doing chores is just a part of what I have, and I still have stuff left over afterwards. So, I can come home and knit a blanket, and still keep my apartment clean and still kind of be moving forward with my life, but not be constantly overwhelmed by my space.
What was it like before? I mean, just sort of without going down the negative path again, what was life like when you used to come home before?
I never really wanted to be home. I
Okay.
didn't want to be out, but I didn't want to be home either. I was in a space where I always felt like I was obligated to do a big task that I couldn't do. And that takes up so much inside of your mental energy. And it makes it so hard to just be able to do really anything.
Yeah. It's interesting. Most of the time, people don't understand how much this weighs on people. I've literally went into homes, Emily, with clients, and we would sit down and we would have these wonderful conversations, and they would talk to me about how hard it was to make that initial phone call. And then I would look on the refrigerator, and they would literally have a brochure of ours from 5 years ago, 6 years ago, where they got the brochure and they were gonna call, they were thinking about calling. Tell me, what's it like from your end of the spectrum when you need to make that phone call? How long does it typically take for you to build the courage, and what's it like before people show up?
Well, for me, it took months and months of courage. I could have used you guys a year before I called. And, I had researched so many times, and I was so anxious that someone coming into my home was going to hurt me.
So you were worried about someone coming in and actually hurting you. That's interesting.
Yeah, okay. Emotionally hurting me,
judging you or something like that.
Into my face and just, all of my worst fears, and in that space, I was at rock bottom. And so I felt like I didn't have any space left to be able to handle being hurt and judged and have somebody come in and, think the worst of me and express that. I didn't feel like I had room for that.
Right.
Inside, but that is absolutely not what happened. Which was just fantastic.
We'll talk a little bit more about that too. And what I want to do is to tap into the psychosis, if you will, of what goes on into the head of someone who knows that they have a bit of a secret in their home. They want to deal with it. They're afraid to deal with it because more often than not, these are scenarios where maybe there's a pipe break or there's some repair work, like heat going out in the middle of the winter, that people that are suffering in these kind of capacities don't reach out to anyone, and they just go suffering, going without these bare basic essentials that most of us, take for granted. What's it like when you were thinking? Did you ever confide in anyone? Did you ever make any phone calls to any other company outside of us?
Until I called you guys, I absolutely was like 100% silent, and like alone in how I was dealing with it. Internally, I was like, well, I can handle this. Like if anybody else was involved, I would have made steps sooner.
Right.
But I was like, oh, I can deal it. I can deal with it. Like I did this. Like it's fine. Like I can handle it. Even though like I wasn't living in a safe space.
Right. When you deal with hoarding situations and clients that are suffering from hoarding, there's a lot of evasiveness. There's a lot of avoidance. There's a lot of don't come over my house, I'll come over your house. There's a lot of
every time.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of that's going on. And I kind of want to talk about that, but not in the sense that, I'm giving away shop secrets or I'm humiliating anybody or making people feel shunned. But the reason I'm talking about that is only so that the concerned family or the parties that are involved with these people can get the telltale signs that maybe there's something else that meets the eye, that there's something going on with their loved one or their friend, that maybe they should probe a little bit more in a loving way, not in a judgmental way, but in a, Emily, I noticed that you never let me come over your house. I noticed that when I come pick you up, you're eager to meet me at the door. I mean, I can't even, if I have to use the restroom, you're quick to tell me, look, there's a Burger King or something around the corner that you can go to. You don't need to come to my house to use the restroom. So, have you ever found yourself going through any of those kind of things where you just like deliberately trying to keep everyone out?
100%. Always, every time. Like I would have people who like really wanted to come over and like we would meet on my balcony. And we would not go inside of my house.
Did you blame it on a pandemic at least at that point? Well, it's the pandemic, right?
Yeah, there was some of that, and there was some like, oh, it's really nice out today. Like, let's hang out on the balcony,
What was the most creative thing you ever had to do to like avoid that intrusion?
My uncle lives pretty close, so I'd be like, oh, like I'll meet you at his place. So that we can go do this family thing, and then like not like put my apartment in the line of transaction, pushing it away
from you, right?
Yeah.
And then you begin to realize how much effort goes into the work of avoiding the inevitable, and
like the anxiety around it too, is like you feel like it's so imperative that like other people don't be here in this like space. There was an online blog that called it chaos. Can't have people over syndrome.
Really?
Can't have others over syndrome.
I've never heard that before. Chaos. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. And like, there's a point where like, oh yes, my house is in chaos. Like maybe, there's some laundry, there's a point where like, yes, it's chaotic, but then there's a point where it's like, okay, like literally nobody is allowed to step foot in my apartment.
Right. No, that's interesting. Just the measure or the output of energy that you just sort of exert into all these strategies is just, it's staggering. And trying to explain to people that is like, it's foreign to them. But, what I wanted to talk to you about is, when you were thinking of looking for a company, what decisions went into finding a company to help you? What were you looking for specifically?
I was specifically looking for like an empathetic company. Like I was specifically looking for like a caring cleaning company or an empathetic cleaning company, just because I knew that for me, if like some like Joe Schmo came in, like I would not have been okay.
Right.
So I wanted to like work with people who like understand how like difficult of a spot I had to be in the place I was in.
So now let's talk about it. What was it like the first day the crew arrived?
Terrifying. But as soon as they were here, the first like big step is in the door, right? And so, the girls came in, were happy to talk to me outside a little bit before like we came in, just to like, meet people as people. And like when they walked in, there was no like big reaction.
Right.
Like, and that's what's like, that big reaction is what you expect. It's what you're scared of, that like they come in and they go, oh goodness, like, wow, like this is how you live. But it was just like, all right, yeah, like, awesome, we got this. There's a lot of guilt, in being in a situation like that, where like, I'm the only person that lives here, like this was on me. And so there's a lot of guilt behind like knowing that I put myself in this situation. So having them come in and just be ready to go and like working hard and just saying like, you sit there, like we'll check anything with you if you want, but like, we got this, we're good to go. Having nice, understanding people who literally have seen it all. And like, what I think was rock bottom to them was like, oh, this was like easy. Like,
right.
Like they came in as people who care about people. It was just like exactly what I needed. I needed people that really just like wanted to make things better.
No, I mean, I appreciate this. Interesting. I have this philosophy, and we actually teach it in our training, is that you can pay for caregivers, but you can't pay for care providers. People who care for people is a different philosophy. Going to an environment and administering services is one thing, but having the compassion to have a connection is totally different. And you can sense it. You can feel it a million miles away when someone's just coming at it to collect a check.
Right.
Yeah, and you feel it. And I wanted to create a culture that allowed for that to occur without desensitizing people to the point where they can walk in these environments and not have any kind of emotional connection with the client. And keep them healthy and keep everyone involved in tune and keep this harmony of healthy healing moving in the right direction. I commend you rather, for your courage, because a lot of people in your situation don't speak up. They don't do anything. They just let the situation slowly but surely deteriorate. And then they get to a point of no return where it's so difficult for them to give a phone call to someone because they just don't know where to start. What advice would you give to someone that's in a situation like yours or in a worse situation looking to get help? What advice would you give to them after having already done it that you would want to share with them?
The quality of my life improved so much after taking one small step, which felt huge. But once that small step was taken, I kind of like let things happen. Because after that, like you just like, you let it happen, and there's some work and there's some internal work. But once you let yourself be helped, then your life can just shoot off into greatness. I mean, I really like the worth that being able to feel in control of my space is immeasurable. I'm more control of my space than I have ever been in my entire life. Wow. And it is so powerful.
That's amazing. I mean, to hear you say that is the reason why I get up every single day. This whole entire platform isn't sponsored or endorsed. I mean, we do this out of a kindness of our heart because we wanted a platform that allows for people like you to be champions that you are, people who are going through something but refusing to give up. I mean, we see on TV every single day, even up until recently, suicide rates are through the roof and people are suffering, and they're suffering quietly through mental health issues. This platform is all about inclusiveness and about healing from all ends and every spectrum of life, whether it's mentally, physically, or emotionally, addressing trauma head on. And in your case, I feel like, there's so much that we can garner. If people are really tuning in the way that I hope that they're tuning in, that sometimes you have to let go in order to hold on to something bigger. But the fear makes you hold on to something smaller that you will overcome. But it just requires you to take that leap of faith and take those risks. When I was in school, I went to my principal's office, and he used to have this plaque on the wall. And he said, "A boat safely docked alongside the harbor is perfectly safe." But that's not what it's intended to do. It's intended or exploration and adventure and excursions. Well, that's what you are, and that's what your life is. It's designed to be lived. When you're in these situations, you do everything but live. You let the situation manifest in so many ways where it suffocates all hope. And that's when the hopelessness turns into more anxiety, and anxiety into depression. And it just brings you into that dark place that this platform and platforms like this are designed to rescue you from. And, I appreciate you. I applaud you. I'm even looking at you now from a different lens. It looked like you did something different with your hair.
I did.
Look at you.
I normally have it
you go.
colored, but I cut it real short. I got an undercut.
Look
Going
at
back
you.
to my regular old style.
And it looks amazing. I can already see a difference in you from when you first came on the show, when we first talked. And if all is about that, then my job is done, because to see you moving in the right direction is, and let's be honest, it's not about saying that you're not going to have adversity. It's not saying that some days are going to be worse or better than others. It's about continuing to continue on despite the fear, despite the setbacks, despite anything that comes your way. You literally have to have a romantic affair with happiness, because every single day you need to cheat on misery, because it's going to remind you at every front what you can't do. But this is a platform, and this is an example of what you can do. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
I couldn't have said it any better.
So listen, before I let you go, one other time, is there anything else you want to share with the guests on this platform? Anything inspirational, motivational, encouraging that you want to share?
Like I said, the amount of space that, was fully taken up, and the amount of energy, there's the spoon theory where you only get so many spoons a day, right? And, I would come home, and then seeing my apartment was 4 spoons in the garbage. But I was talking about this the other day with my friend, and I was like, it's wild. It's like I found spoons. She was like, no, they found them. They were like under your TV stand and like behind your bookcase, and they helped you find them, and they put them in a cute little cup for you. And I was like, you know what? That's true. Like, they helped me find my spoons again and make them usable and make it so that I can.
Yeah. You know what? That's the goal. And thank you again so much for being on the show. From the bottom of my heart, viewers that are listening in to this show, if you're going through something, if you're thinking about making a change in your life, and you have all these different things, please don't hesitate. Pick up the phone, contact Life Cycle Transitions, or contact anyone. I mean, friends, cousins, brothers, sisters, whoever. But do not close those doors. Do not negotiate with misery any further. This is Brandon Brown, the Transition Expert, and this is another wonderful episode of The Transition Expert. Emily, thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Bye now.